John 3:16 is the most quoted verse in the New Testament. For God so loved the world that he gave his only begotten Son. The Greek word translated only begotten is monogenes. Modern translations are quietly changing it. The NIV says one and only Son. The ESV says only Son. The KJV's only begotten is the older reading. The question is which reading the Greek actually supports, and the answer is settled by another verse in the New Testament itself, where the same word is applied to a different person entirely. That other verse forces the meaning of monogenes from inside the canon, and what it forces is not only begotten. To understand what monogenes actually means, you have to start with the etymology debate, because the entire question hinges on whether the second half of the Greek word is the verb to beget or the noun kind. Monogenes is a compound Greek word, two pieces. The first piece, monos from monos, is uncontested. It means only or single. That part has never been debated. The disputed piece is the second half, genes. The second half could come from one of two Greek roots, the verb genao, to beget or to give birth to, or the noun genos, kind, type, race, family. These are related Greek words, but they are not the same. Jerome, the saint, in his study, quill in hand, and the Latin Vulgate open before him, the Latin unigenitus changed Western Christianity for 1,500 years. The traditional reading takes the second half from the verb genao. Monos plus genao equals only begotten. This is the reading reflected in the King James Bible and behind the King James in Jerome's 4th century Latin Vulgate, where monogenes was translated as unigenitus, uni meaning one plus genitus, the past participle of gener, to beget. The Latin choice hardwired the only begotten reading into Western Christianity for 1,500 years. The modern scholarly reading takes the second half from the noun genos. Monos plus genos equals unique or one of a kind, singular in category, not singular in mode of generation. The standard Greek lexicons used by modern textual scholarship define monogenes as unique or one of a kind, rather than only begotten. In a minute, I'm going to walk you through the verse that settles this debate from inside the New Testament itself, Hebrews 11:17, where the same word monogenes is applied to Isaac, and what that verse requires is going to make the lexical question impossible to avoid. The Greek word monogenes appears 9 times in the New Testament.
5 are Christological, describing Jesus. John 1:14, 18, 3:16, 3:18, and 1 John 4:9. 3 are narrative, describing only child references in healing miracles. Luke 7:12, Luke 8:42, Luke 9:38. Each of these 3 could plausibly be either only begotten or unique, the only child of an only child family. 1. Hebrews 11:17, the verse that breaks the symmetry, the verse where monogenes is applied to Isaac. By faith, Abraham, when he was tried, offered up Isaac, and he that received the promises offered up his monogenes. Isaac is called Abraham's monogenes. The King James translates this as his only begotten son. Modern translations vary. Some keep only, NIV is his one and only son, some footnote. A little later, I'll walk through the doctrinal implications, but first the textual problem. Abraham did not have only Isaac. Genesis 16 records that Abraham fathered Ishmael by Hagar 14 years before Isaac was born. Genesis 25 records that after Sarah's death, Abraham married Keturah and fathered 6 more sons through Keturah: Zimron, Yokshan, Medan, Midian, Ishbak, and Shua. Abraham had 8 sons in the Genesis narrative. Isaac was not his only begotten. 8 sons. Isaac was one of them. So when Hebrews 11:17 calls Isaac his monogenes, the meaning cannot be only begotten. That reading is empirically wrong.
falsified by the Genesis narrative the Hebrews author is referencing.
The meaning has to be unique. Isaac was the unique son of Abraham, unique in covenant promise, unique in the line of messianic descent, unique in the relationship to the divine promise. He was the one-of-a-kind son, not the only son. The New Testament itself in Hebrews 11:17 uses monogenes in a way that requires the meaning unique rather than only begotten. This is internal evidence. It is not external scholarship imposing a reading onto the text. The same word that appears in John 3:16 appears in Hebrews 11:17 in a context that forces unique. The most economical reading is that monogenes means unique in all its NT usages, including John 3:16. What this means doctrinally, the traditional Latin Vulgate translation unigenitus, only begotten, was the foundation of the Nicene Creed's doctrine of eternal generation. The Son is eternally generated from the Father. This framework treats monogenes as evidence of the eternal generation relation. If monogenes actually means unique rather than only begotten, the eternal generation doctrine doesn't lose its theological grounding. It still has Old Testament wisdom literature, Johannine prologue, and patristic reasoning behind it. But monogenes specifically stops being its proof text. The shift is real, but it is not necessarily heretical. The Nicene Creed can be defended with or without monogenes as only begotten. Modern translations using one and only Son or unique Son are not abandoning Nicene Christology. They are returning to what the Greek probably said before Jerome's Latin choice hardened the doctrinal framework. The reading is more honest to the Greek. The doctrinal scaffolding has to be rebuilt slightly, but it can be. What John 3:16 probably says in the Greek that Jerome was translating from is, "For God so loved the world that he gave his unique Son, the one-of-a-kind Son, the singular Son in covenant, that whoever believes in him should not perish but have eternal life." The radicalism of John's claim is uniqueness, not generation. Jesus is the singular intersection of God and humanity, not the only one God ever begot, the only one of his kind. The Greek says something more specific than the Latin captured. If monogenes reframed John 3:16, the next video goes after a word so politically loaded that the King James translators refused to translate it at all. They transliterated it into English instead, and that single choice in 1611 has shaped 400 years of denominational arguments about a sacrament every Christian tradition observes.